Welcome back to Legends and Lore. When we think of Mount Olympus, we often picture a paradise, a golden realm above the clouds where the gods feast on nectar and ambrosia, free from the worries of the mortal world. But if you look closer, behind the marble columns and the golden thrones, you will find a household defined by betrayal, secrets, and a rage that shook the very foundations of the earth. Today, we are looking at the Queen of Heaven herself, Hera. In popular culture, Hera is often painted as the villain. She is the wicked stepmother of mythology, the angry wife who spends her immortality punishing innocent women. And while it is true that her wrath was legendary, to understand Hera, we must understand her position. She was the goddess of marriage. She represented the sanctity of the vow. And yet, she was married to Zeus, the most unfaithful husband in the history of the cosmos. In a society where the king of the gods could do whatever he wanted, Hera had no power to divorce him. She had no power to punish him. All that divine rage, all that humiliation, it had to go somewhere. And so, it went outward. It targeted the women Zeus pursued, and the children they bore. This isn't just a story about jealousy. This is a story about power, pride, and the terrifying lengths a queen will go to keep her crown. This is the vengeance of Hera. Our first tale begins not with a war, but with a cloud. Zeus had set his sights on Io, a beautiful priestess of the temple of Hera in Argos. The irony was not lost on anyone. Zeus was pursuing a woman dedicated to serving his own wife. To hide his illicit affair from the prying eyes of Olympus, Zeus wrapped the entire valley in a thick, dark cloud. It was a crude trick, but he hoped it would be enough. High above on Olympus, Hera looked down. She saw the clear blue sky everywhere else, but a single suspicious thunderhead resting on one specific valley. She knew her husband's tricks better than anyone. Suspecting that she was being made a fool of once again, she flew down from the heavens, dispersing the clouds with a wave of her hand. Zeus heard his wife's approach and panicked. This time, he didn't just change his own form, he changed the mortal he was seducing. In a flurry of divine magic, Zeus transformed Io into a beautiful, innocent white heifer, a cow. He hoped that the sight of the animal would make Hera drop her guard. She approached Zeus and said sweetly, "Oh, my dear husband, what a beautiful creature. What exquisite markings. It would make a wonderful pet for me. Can I have her as a gift?" Zeus was trapped. If he refused, he'd confirm his guilt. To save face, he had to say yes. Hera took possession of the cow. Hera was taking no chances. She hired a giant to guard Io, Argus Panoptes, the legendary giant with 100 eyes. These eyes were scattered all over his body, and only 2 would sleep at a time, meaning Argus was perpetually watchful. No mortal or animal could escape his gaze. Zeus couldn't stand seeing Io suffer, so he sent his son, the quick-witted messenger god Hermes. Hermes, disguised as a common shepherd, approached Argus and began to play his reed pipes. He then began to tell stories, endless, dull, and rambling stories, so boring that one by one, all 100 of Argus's eyes fell closed. Once Argus was fully asleep, Hermes killed him. Io was free. Briefly, Hera, heartbroken over the death of her loyal giant, took his eyes, all 100 of them, and placed them upon the tail of her sacred bird, the peacock. This is the magnificent origin story of her most famous symbol. But the story doesn't end with a liberated cow. Hera's final punishment for Io was psychological. She sent a giant, stinging insect, a gadfly, to relentlessly chase the poor cow. The gadfly chased Io across the entire known world, stinging her constantly, giving her no rest. Io's frantic flight created geographical landmarks. She swam across the water between Europe and Asia, which is why that strait became known as the Ionian Sea. The gadfly finally stopped tormenting her in Egypt, where she was finally restored to her human form. The next woman to catch Zeus's attention was the Titaness Leto. She had the misfortune of becoming pregnant with powerful, divine twins. And this time, Hera's revenge wasn't just physical torment. It was an attempt to mess with the fundamental laws of nature. Hera issued a terrifying decree. No land that sees the light of the sun is allowed to offer Leto shelter to give birth. Think about that for a moment. This was not just a banishment. This was a cosmic curse, condemning both the mother and the unborn children. Leto went into labor and wandered the earth, heavily pregnant, pleading for aid. Every city, every island, and every solid piece of ground turned her away, terrified of incurring Hera's inevitable wrath. The gods and mortals understood that defying Hera meant total destruction. Finally, Leto stumbled upon the island of Delos. Delos was a tiny, barren rock that sometimes floated on the sea. Since it was floating, it technically wasn't land rooted to the earth. Furthermore, sometimes the waves would wash over it, meaning it didn't always see the sun. It was the perfect, desperate loophole. But Hera wasn't finished. Even after Leto managed to reach Delos, Hera still found a way to prolong her pain. Hera used her power to distract Eileithyia, the goddess of childbirth, effectively hiding the fact that Leto was in labor. For 9 days and 9 nights, Leto suffered unimaginable agony, trapped on that tiny island, while the necessary divine helper was kept away by Hera's malice. Finally, the other goddesses on Olympus realized what Hera was doing and managed to get Eileithyia to Delos. When she arrived, the labor was completed and the twins were born. Apollo, the god of the sun, and Artemis, the goddess of the hunt. Even though Hera didn't stop the birth, she made it a prolonged, agonizing ordeal. This is how Hera shaped the pantheon, not by preventing these children, but by ensuring their arrival was marked by pain and trauma.